Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out Zebec's price chart and see what is happening in the short term. But before we get into all that, real quick, we are going to talk about this very important tweet from Zebec's account. And in case you don't know, these are their September numbers. And just to make two very important points, through the magic of editing, I'm actually going to put August numbers next to September's report in order for you to get a better idea and understand what is actually my point. So, are you ready? Let's dive in and see what is going on. And of course, at first glance, this report gives off the exact vibe of a healthy, maturing fintech company. And the phrase that used, which is a steady momentum, I think actually fits it perfectly. Nothing flashy, just consistent and very much real progress. But when you dig a little bit into the numbers, you can actually see two stories happening side by side. One is all about stability. We are talking about the payroll business, which I would call the bedrock of Zebec, and the other side is about acceleration, and that side of the story mainly comes from Zebec's card, which is clearly the growth engine here. So let's start with payroll business. You see, this is actually Zebec's core B2B operation, and honestly, it is doing exactly what you would want from a long-term sticky business. Point number one, monthly volume went from $14.5 million to 46, which is great. Point number two, enterprise clients grew slightly from 234 to 236. And point number three, employees served went from 12,000 to 12,300. So basically all numbers are up, and at first glance that might look like a bit of a slow growth, but in payroll business, again, this is really the key word, payroll, that is like very strong. The two new enterprise clients are nice to see, but the key number in my view is probably that extra 300 employees, and that's probably, I'm gonna say, a mix of new hires from those two clients plus organic growth from the existing ones, meaning the businesses that are already using Zebec, they are expanding their teams and they are absolutely continuing to rely on Zebec for payments, which is great. And I fully understand this kind of growth is actually a bit slow, but again, you want to remember it is going to be steady and very much predictable, and that's exactly what you want in a sticky enterprise product. Now, let's move over to Zebec's card business, because this is, in my view, where things start to speed up a little bit. You see, this is more consumer facing, and growth here actually looks quite strong because annualized volume jumped from 57.4 million to about 60, and that is about a 5% increase, which for a 30-day period, it's definitely not that bad. And also, cards issued jump from 17,100 to about 19,700, and that is an increase of, I believe, about 15%, and that's actually the standout metric in here, because adding more than 2,600 new cards in a single month, in my view, shows real adoption here and people actually using the product, which is what you love to see. And also, I forgot to tell you this, one thing that is clearly standing out when we are comparing August and September reports is that in August, Zebec saw a massive 41% spike in card issuance, and September's is about, I think, 15%, and it might seem a bit slower, but it's actually quite healthier, I would say. Because let's be honest, sustaining a 41% month after month isn't really realistic, but 15% I think is quite strong. It can be, in my view, hopefully very much sustainable growth that can actually compound over time. So overall, what we are seeing here is a perfect balance, a rock solid, predictable payroll base, and also a fast growing consumer driven card business. And this combination is exactly what you want to see when a company is transitioning from early adoption to real market maturity. And again, all of this happening while at the same time we are somewhere around rank 150th, meaning Zebec is not really that famous yet, and that's why I actually love this project. Well, actually, add to that the fact that they are a United States based project also, in my view, means a lot for their growth in the future, and I think they are actually going to benefit from this big time. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't really get enough attention, and that is the stickiness of Zebec's payroll business. You see, this is honestly, in my view, the secret weapon in their whole model, because here's the thing. Once a company starts using a payroll system, they basically do not want to ever switch. Okay, it's very important to understand that, because this isn't really like, for example, I don't know, maybe changing your internet provider or coffee supplier. No, payroll is actually very deep in the core of how a business runs, and it is tied directly into HR, finance, tax, and compliance systems. And God forbid, if something goes wrong during a switch, well, employees may not get paid correctly, or worse, the company could run into legal or maybe even potentially tax problems. And even if every single thing is going to go smoothly, it is still going to take a ton of time, because migrating employee data, bank details, tax info, retraining staff, this is a huge job. And again, nobody really wants to do that. And that's actually exactly what makes payroll such a sticky product, because once you are in, you are going to stay for the long term. And that is why Zebec's position here is so strong in my view. You see, it's very important to understand that those 236 enterprise clients that we talked about earlier are not really going to go anywhere anytime soon. And even to be honest, I don't really believe it, but let's just speculate a little bit and say, even if Zebec does not sign a single new client, their numbers, in my view, will still rise naturally as existing clients expand and hire more and more people. So every new employee basically is going to be added to those 236 companies automatically, is going to become part of the Zebec's family. And that is how numbers are going to go up. Again, even if Zebec is not going to sign a single new client, which I don't really believe that is the case, I think they are going to attract a whole lot more adoption. Every single thing basically is in their favor. And also, let's talk about the foot in the door strategy, because this is really the clever part here. You see, once Zebec is handling a company's payroll, which is essentially the most sensitive financial operation that they have, it is going to become way easier to sell them other services. Like, for example, saying, I don't know, hey, since you are already paying employees through Zebec, why not use Zebec Cards for company expenses? And they are going to probably say, yeah, you know what, why not? Or maybe consider this, why not use our platform for treasury management, or maybe even supplier payments too? And right now, I fully understand they are not really offering those services, but I think in the future, based on the path, probably they are actually going to be active in those areas as well, because this is going to be a smooth, logical expansion path, and it is building long-term trust with their clients. And that, in my view, is really the Zebec's advantage. The fact that payroll is absolutely a sticky business, and when you are seeing, for example, September numbers, you can definitely bet on the fact that these numbers are also going to show up with probably a decent increase in the next month. And believe me, you really cannot say that about a lot of other altcoins, because most altcoins actually have an ecosystem inside of the crypto market, meaning if a lot of people are paying attention to crypto, well, okay, at that point, their on-chain activities are going to go up and up and up. But there isn't really a whole lot of time when most people are paying attention to crypto. So in an ideal scenario, you would really love to see a crypto project that is actually working outside of the crypto market. And that is a very important reason for why I'm actually kind of a big fan of what Zebec is bringing to the table. So to wrap all this up, it seems like that Zebec's payroll business is the bedrock here. It is very much stable, recurring, and also absolutely sticky. And the card business right now at least seems like that it is acting as the growth engine, and it is fast, scalable, and very much user driven. And together they are forming a model that, in my view, is quite sustainable. And you've got predictable revenue on one side, and on the other you got rapid expansion, which will all hopefully in the mid to long term lead to a constant increase in revenue. So fundamental wise, I think we are definitely on the right track. And now let's go on the live chart and see what is going on in the short term, because I think there are some interesting stuff going on here. You see, if you remember the last time that we talked about Zebec, let's actually zoom out a little bit more. Excuse me. Okay, what just happened? We were right around this area, and the idea was that our move down can continue a little bit more, but it shouldn't really continue a whole lot, because there's actually a very strong and extremely important support area in here between, let's say, 0.27 to about 0.28 of a cent. And we said, under any kind of circumstances, we do not want to see Zebec getting a break of this extraordinarily important level. Why? Because number one, this level I think was from daily time frame, so it does actually have quite a bit of validity. And point number two, which is actually the most important one, under here I really do not see a whole lot of strong support until the next one, which is all the way down here about, let's say, 50-60% lower, which is really not ideal. So if we end up, God forbid, getting a break of this level, doing a pullback and then a continuation of the move down, the next target is going to be about 50% lower. And that's why we said in the previous video, we really do not want to see Zebec getting a break of this level. And in an ideal scenario, we want to see actually this drawing is from the previous video, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave off of the lowest low. And also in this phase down in Zebec, if we don't take the lowest low down here, it would also be yet another optimistic sign. And what happened? Not only we didn't take the lows, we also got a decent bounce off of this important support. Now, why is it that I would like to see a 5 wave off of here? You see, in terms of Elios waves, if you want to be bullish on any chart, you have to be able to find off of the recent lowest low a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave. This specific structure is called an impulsive movement. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, well, if you are a regular viewer of the channel, I think you know what I'm about to say. We have to have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for wave 2 and 4, we can have different counts. Let's say, sure, ABC into 4 and maybe a WXY into wave 2. Now let's go on the live chart and see what is going on in our recent bounce. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure if I have positive news. Why? Because sure, although I did buy Zebec right around the lows, but having said that, I don't really think that we can say with a lot of confidence that this is going to be our final one, and we should actually consider a possibility which in it Zebec may end up going a little bit lower than that, and maybe we are going to just temporarily go under this level and then get a good bounce back. Why is that? Because let me ask you this, how exactly are you able to find a 5 wave on the upside in this phase? I mean, sure, this can be a 1, let's say 2 to about this point, another move up, I guess maybe to about here into wave 3, correction for 4, another move up into wave 5, and this is also another 5 wave on the upside. And well, so far you're having only 2 sets of 5 waves up, which is really not ideal. As in an ideal scenario, we said you want to see a 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5, and unfortunately in ZBCN, we didn't really get this phase right in here. Instead, we got a good move on the downside. And this thing right in here, on the other hand, does actually, yes, look like maybe it wants to be a bit of a 5 wave. And for instance, this can be 1, correction for 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down into wave 3, correction for 4. And what are we going to have next? There is a chance that we are going to unfortunately visit the lows once more, and that move down is going to be into our wave 5, which in it it's very much possible for Zebec to take this important low. Question: should we at that point be absolutely scared? I'll be honest with you, I don't really think so. Why? Because from my POV, again, you can have a different perspective. I absolutely respect yours. But from my POV, Zebec is more like a long-term play. And every single time that we end up going lower quite a bit, I actually add more Zebec to my portfolio because I really do think the future for this project is very, very bright, and they are going to have in the future a whole lot more adoption. So any kind of deep move down and meaningful move on the downside in Zebec, from my POV, is just going to be a buy opportunity for the mid to long term. Because let's say, I don't know, maybe we are going to have an alt season in the next couple of months. In my view, Zebec is going to be one of the projects that is going to participate in an alt season, and I want you to understand this. There's like a very high chance that not altcoins are going to go up big time in an alt season, okay? Let's understand that, please. And that's why I want to argue you should actually start looking for the projects with solid fundamentals, because most likely those are actually going to be the ones who are going to have some magnificent moves on the upside. You can check out, for example, maybe QNT. Recently, we actually saw ICP going up big time and start its fantastic bull run. You can check out Zcash and a lot of other projects with solid fundamentals. And what you are noticing right now is this: not a whole lot of meme coins at the moment are going up, right? So maybe this time is going to be a little different, and great projects are actually going to see good price appreciations. So for now, in Zebec, I would like to argue we need to be a bit patient and expect a move on the downside. So if it happens, we're not really going to be surprised at all. Now, any analyst at any given moment should be able to come up with a bullish and also a bearish count at the same time, right? Well, so far we just talked about our bearish scenario, suggesting this is a three-wave movement in form of an ABC zigzag, and we are having a good move on the downside, and this is odds are going to continue. Now, what about our bullish scenario? Well, that's actually a little bit more complicated, because you're not going to believe this. I am going to argue this is a 5-wave up into one. And from this point, well, I told you, you're not going to believe it. We are having an A, B, C in form of either a running or maybe an expanded flat, depending on whether we are going to take this low or not. And that expanded flat structure is going to be into our wave 2. And then we are going to see a good move up into wave 3, 4, 5. Question: at what point exactly are we going to talk about this count with more confidence? Because trust me, right now, this is not going to be by any means my primary scenario. You see, if I identify maybe in a coming bounce back in ZBCN, a rather strong move without a lot of overlapping of the waves, and in terms of the sub waves, I identify a clean cut 5-wave on the upside. Okay, at that point, the story is going to be a little bit different, and maybe it is going to be time to be a little bit more optimistic and talk about this structure. But for now, I don't really think this should be our primary count. For now, let's just expect maybe another move on the downside, and from my POV, that's probably going to be a good buy opportunity. And let's hope that during that phase on, we're not really going to get a break of this level. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in ZBCN's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.